Less than app data end equals 528 data start equals 87 greater than. Lately, there's been a lot of buzz about traveling to the United States from Canada. If you're planning a trip south of the border, you've probably come across the warnings or seen headlines raising concerns over detainments and phone searches at U.S. entry points. It's unsettling, no doubt, especially when official Canadian travel advisories are cautioning about electronic device scrutiny and possible detainment if you're denied entry. Less than plea data end equals 567 data start equals 530 greater than. But here's where it gets complicated. Less than EAP data end equals 1024 data start equals 569 greater than. The U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra, has stepped in to address these concerns head-on. According to him, the notion that Canadians are routinely being stopped, having their phones searched, or being detained isn't reflective of reality. He calls these situations isolated events, and emphasizes that this is not a widespread or systematic issue. In his own words, searching devices and all of that is not a well-founded fear. We don't do that. Less than CIF data end equals 1371 data start equals 1026 greater than. He's pushing back against Ottawa's updated travel advisory from April, which specifically mentioned heightened scrutiny, including checks on electronic devices at U.S. ports of entry. Yes, some Canadians have reported troubling encounters, being held up, questioned, and even detained. But Hoekstra insists these are rare exceptions, not the rule. Less than P data end equals 1693 data start equals 1373 greater than. What's interesting is that he also pointed out a bit of irony. Apparently, some Americans entering Canada have voiced similar complaints. According to Hoekstra, a few visitors from the U.S. have felt they didn't receive the warmest welcome at Canadian customs either. So it seems border unease might be a two-way street. Less than APE data end equals 1918. Data start equals 1695 greater than. The Canadian Border Services Agency responded by reinforcing its code of conduct, stressing values like integrity, fairness, and professionalism. Any complaints, they say, are taken seriously and investigated appropriately. Less than P data end equals 2384 data start equals 1920 greater than. Still, the climate between the two countries seems a little frosty. There's been a noticeable drop in travel between Canada and the U.S., with airlines cutting flights due to decreased demand. In fact, a travel report noted a 40% drop in air travel between the two nations earlier this year. A survey from Leger found that more than half of Canadians feel the U.S. is no longer entirely safe for Canadian travelers. Many also reported feeling personally unwelcome. Less than P data end equals 2719 data start equals 2386 greater than. And it's not just your average tourist who's cautious. LGBTQ2S+ advocacy groups have even opted out of attending events like World Pride in Washington or UN sessions in New York, citing concerns about increased scrutiny at the U.S. border, especially under policies perceived as rolling back protections for marginalized communities. Less than plop data end equals 3126 data, is last node equals data, is only node equals data start, equals 2721 greater than. At the end of the day, Hoekstra encourages Canadians not to let rhetoric or isolated reports dissuade them from visiting. He argues that Canada and the U.S. share a deep connection, and those who choose to stay away are missing an opportunity. But as a traveler, especially in today's climate, it's always wise to stay informed, cautious, and prepared, whether you're carrying a suitcase or a smartphone. Stay subscribed for more videos.